The Earth we live on is not supposed to look like this. Across the planet, there are massive landscapes so extreme, so vast, they appear to break the rules of nature itself. These are mega-scale worlds shaped by time, pressure, and forces operating far beyond human control. From towering formations to environments where survival feels impossible, these places challenge everything we think we know about our planet. They don't look real, yet they exist as measurable, physical parts of Earth. This is Impossible Places, a journey into a mega-Earth that doesn't seem real, but undeniably is. How can a colossal body of ice remain frozen for millions of years inside heat-absorbing limestone without ever melting? Resemble is a living paradox, a frozen fortress over 26 miles long, where ice falls as tall as a 7-story building defy the blazing heat just outside. The moment you step through the cave's mouth, an Arctic gust hits your face like a portal, opening into another dimension fueled by internal windstorms that constantly circulate freezing air through endless stone chambers. With no electric lights or modern guidance, you must carry a flickering carbide lamp and climb over 4,600 feet of steep stairs to witness glowing ice falls, suspended in absolute darkness, making you forget what century you're in. Locals once feared the cave's entrance, believing the howling wind was the breath of a demon guarding the gate to hell, and that anyone who wandered in would be frozen in time forever. Located deep in Ecuador's mountainous jungle, Pilón del Diablo is an 80-meter waterfall plunging into a 20-meter basin where the impact produces a deafening roar that feels like a geologic engine hammering directly into the ear. Its most impossible feature is a handcrafted stone staircase carved along sheer rock cliffs, winding with such precision it seems born from a natural algorithm rather than human hands. To reach the heart of the falls, visitors must crouch or crawl through narrow, soaked crevices, feeling as if they're entering a massive natural machine where every surface moves and breathes. What causes the boundary between sky and earth to disappear here? It's the dense mist, generated by relentless collisions between ancient rock and cascading water, that blankets the entire space in eternal rain. Regardless of weather conditions, you will be drenched as if caught in a storm, making a change of clothes, an unspoken rule for venturing in to this devil's cauldron. At night, the waterfall glows under a vibrant lighting system, transforming Pylon into a living sculpture of light, both majestic and mysterious within the dark forest. Hin Sam Wan differs from typical isolated rock formations by consisting of 3 massive sandstone blocks aligned in parallel with a precision that appears intentional rather than random. To produce the smooth whale skin-like curves across these enormous surfaces, wind and water have sculpted the rock continuously for about 75 million years, beginning in the Cretaceous period and continuing today. Each whale is effectively a sandstone wall rising dozens of feet high and stretching hundreds of feet long, large enough to dominate the surrounding vegetation and read as giant hidden forms within the forest. From ground level, you perceive only towering cliff faces, while the whale-shaped outlines become clear only from elevated viewpoints or aerial observation. Standing on the back of the father whale, the largest block, you can see the Mekong River and forested terrain extending into the territory of Laos. This reliance on perspective and scale has placed Hin Sam Wan on the must-photograph lists of landscape photographers documenting unusual natural forms across Southeast Asia. Kjeragbolten is a massive granite boulder wedged precisely between 2 vertical cliff faces in Norway, forming a natural structure that has remained stable for thousands of years. Geologically, the stone became locked in place as glaciers retreated at the end of the Ice Age, leaving the boulder trapped within a narrow rock fissure with near centimeter-level precision. Visually, the formation resembles a keystone in a giant stone arch, except it was created entirely by natural processes rather than human engineering calculations. To reach the site, you must complete a mountain hike lasting roughly 6 to 10 hours, including steep sections that require gripping chains and step through an extremely narrow rock gap before accessing the boulder. The standing surface measures only about 54 square feet, yet it supports thousands of visitors each year, with no recorded fatalities from slipping while standing on the rock for photographs. Kjeragbolten also serves as a launch point for base jumping, and Norwegian authorities deliberately avoid installing railings or safety lines to preserve the raw landscape, placing all risk responsibility on visitors. Victoria Falls can be envisioned as a gash nearly 1 mile long carved into the land, where the Zambezi River suddenly vanishes into a deep fracture to form a continuous wall of falling water. Geologically, the waterfall is a massive crack in hard volcanic basalt, forcing the entire river through a narrow gorge only about 200 to 300 feet wide and generating immense hydraulic pressure. Over roughly 100,000 years, the system has repeatedly rebuilt itself by eroding zigzag fractures in the basalt, making the current position the eighth waterfall formed as the structure migrated upstream. Approximately 130 million gallons of water plunge every minute, creating powerful air pressure that drives mist columns up to about 1,300 feet high and produces a roar perceptible from many miles away. This persistent mist establishes a stable microclimate, bringing near constant rainfall along the cliff edge throughout the year and sustaining a narrow strip of rainforest within the surrounding dry savanna. It is also one of the few places on Earth where you can witness a nighttime rainbow or moonbow, formed when moonlight refracts through the dense curtain of airborne water droplets. If you believe skyscrapers represent the peak of human vertical ambition, Trango Towers will shatter that notion. A colossal granite megastructure carved by nature itself, rising above the clouds in Pakistan's Karakoram Range. Its main wall stands over 20,300 feet tall, boasting the highest vertical rock face on Earth, tall enough to stack dozens of Burj Khalifas with space left for clouds to drift through. Unlike the usual cone-shaped summits, Trango's spires jut out like the fangs of the earth, with blade-flat granite walls so sharp and geometric they resemble prehistoric machines left behind by titans. The tower's current form is the hardened granite core revealed by millions of years of glacial erosion, which stripped away softer layers, leaving behind a vertical fortress immune to time. Climbers must hammer pythons into bare stone to create hanging bedrooms in mid-air, where a single wrong movement could result in a free fall of over 3,000 feet. This site is also a legend in base jumping history, where in 1992, two Australians performed a leap from its peak, setting the world record for ground-based parachute jump height at the time. Perched at over 10,000 feet in the arid Kaidam Basin, The Chidan Emerald Lake is not merely a body of water, but a geological impossibility where pure white salt bands slice across glowing green water as if designed by some advanced precision. What force could possibly carve a salt lake into near-perfect geometric patterns resembling a massive circuit board from an unknown civilization? Covering dozens of square miles, this natural megastructure humbles any man-made monument, while its surface is marked by salt boundaries so uniform they seem algorithmic. The extreme salinity rapidly encrusts anything that falls into the lake, turning everyday objects into crystal-coated mummies within weeks. Walking atop these floating salt ridges feels like crossing suspended crystal bridges, where total silence and flawless mountain reflections dissolve the line between earth and sky. Deep below the surface, vast reservoirs of lithium and potassium are forming naturally, making this more than a visual marvel. It is a strategic power plant for Earth's technological future. Monte Fitz Roy is not an ordinary mountain, but a colossal monolith of granite rising skyward as if defying the very law of gravity. While Everest has become a commercialized ascent route, Fitz Roy remains an untouchable megastructure with nearly vertical walls and the screaming winds of Patagonia guarding its flanks. Its form was cast by deep earth magma and sculpted over millions of years by glacial blades producing razor-sharp peaks beyond the reach of human architecture. Piercing through cloud layers, the summit generates its own microclimate, crowned by lenticular clouds that hover like halos forged from wind. The combination of permanent ice and raging storms renders the peak a natural fortress where most human attempts are instantly repelled. At sunrise, for only a few fleeting minutes, the entire granite face ignites in fiery orange, a moment that every landscape photographer dreams of capturing. Forget concrete and steel monuments, because at Naka Cave in Thailand, the earth itself has carved a stone megastructure in the form of a mythical serpent with such intricate detail that scientists are left stunned. How could nature possibly sculpt a massive sandstone formation hundreds of feet long, winding through a cliffside that so perfectly resembles an ancient guardian serpent? Along its body, millions of interlocking hexagonal cracks form precise, dragon-scale patterns, creating a surface so mathematically complex that no human artisan could replicate it on this scale. What puzzles researchers most is the discovery of snakehead rock formations precisely aligned with the scaly body, leading locals to believe this isn't stone at all, but a living curse turned to fossil. Gaoyiling is not a mountain in the conventional sense, but a colossal sandstone megastructure sculpted over millions of years by wind and rain, where raw geological textures meet curves so smooth they appear nano-polished. Razor-thin red rock ridges rise into the air without any pillars or support structures, forming a natural maze of stone bridges stretching above deep emerald lakes. While most Danxia formations are dry and fractured, Gaoyiling is uniquely surrounded by still water basins where fiery red cliffs and deep blue reflections merge in an impossible contrast. What prevents vegetation from growing on Gaoyiling's ridgelines, even though it's surrounded by lush tropical forest? The mineral surface steep gradient and extreme drainage turn the site into a sterile dead zone within a thriving ecosystem. Some slopes here tilt as steep as 60 to 70 degrees, and even seasoned hikers cling to railings as they peer down into the vertical drop below. Setenil de Las Bodegas is an ancient town in southern Spain. Globally recognized for its cliff-integrated homes, where residents use million-ton rock overhangs as natural roofs and rear walls without excavating into the stone. Instead of leveling the terrain, locals chose to adapt by anchoring themselves into this geologic megastructure, transforming prehistoric rock mouths into shelter that has lasted for centuries. What makes a space seemingly crushed by stone feel livable rather than claustrophobic? These massive ceilings have remained motionless for millions of years, with no record of major collapses, providing a rare sense of safety. The surrounding geology creates a natural geothermal regulator, stabilizing indoor temperatures through scorching summers and frigid Andalusian winters. Deep beneath the surface of Mexico, the Cave of the Crystals reveals a gleaming white labyrinth where massive gypsum columns pierce the darkness like pillars of a surreal world yet to be explored. Far beyond an ordinary cavern, this natural megastructure holds selenite crystals up to 40 feet long and weighing more than 110,000 pounds, making any man-made structure seem insignificant by comparison. What created a landscape so heavenly, yet so lethal, that no human can survive more than minutes inside temperatures of 122 degrees Fahrenheit, combined with near-total humidity, turn the chamber into a biological furnace, accessible only with specialized equipment. Each sparkling inch of crystal formed through an ultra-slow crystallization process over 500,000 years, where time operates on a scale far beyond human comprehension. These colossal interlocking structures span the void as natural arches defying gravity, without foundations, without engineers, and without a single calculation. Son Doong is the largest natural cave by volume on the planet, spacious enough to contain all the skyscrapers of Manhattan in New York inside its subterranean void. With an estimated volume of 38.5 million cubic meters, this cave is not just a hollow, but an immense three-dimensional chasm that challenges every concept of underground space. One of its most surreal features is the presence of giant skylights formed by collapsed ceilings, which allow sunlight to penetrate and support a full-scale rainforest, with trees reaching 100 feet tall beneath the Earth's surface. This makes Son Doong one of the few caves on Earth capable of hosting an autonomous and stable ecosystem thanks to natural light filtering through massive sinkholes. How does one reach such a hidden wonder? Explorers must trek through jungles, cross rivers, rappel down a 90-meter-high stalagmite wall, dubbed the Great Wall of Vietnam, and camp inside surreal underground chambers. Though vast enough to be visible by satellite, Son Doong remained hidden for millions of years and was only rediscovered by a local woodsman seeking shelter from rain, who then forgot the entrance for nearly 20 years. Elephant Rock is a massive trachyte formation standing about 13 feet tall and is world-renowned for its natural shape that perfectly resembles a standing elephant with an extended trunk. Though it appears to be a meticulously sculpted statue, this structure is actually the accidental outcome of ancient lava flows that solidified into the form of a lifelike creature. Amusingly, this stone elephant sits right beside a national highway and can be seen easily from your car without any need to hike or climb. Deep within Jordan Wadi Rum appears not as an ordinary desert, but as a geological construction site where towering red sandstone monoliths rise nearly 6,000 feet, defying all limits of natural architecture. Each vertical cliff face here was sculpted by blades of wind and ancient water flow over millions of years, resulting in surfaces so precise that no human tool could replicate them. How can a landscape be both a relic of deep time and a vision from another world? Wadi Rum achieves this by merging 2-billion-year-old granite bedrock with iron-rich crimson sand, creating a palette that appears to ignite under desert sun. Suspended natural stone bridges stretch between massive peaks, forming impossible spans with no piers, no beams, yet anchored solely by gravity. In total stillness, the terrain dissolves the boundary between Earth and space, turning the region into a Martian fragment, stranded on a blue planet. Guanabara Bay is a massive natural megastructure spanning over 160 square miles along Brazil's coastline, surrounded by lush mountain ranges and the iconic Sugarloaf Rock. From above, the bay resembles a perfect water fortress, with a narrow 1-mile entrance guarded by steep cliffs, forming a nearly enclosed and motionless basin. Why was a bay mistaken for a river? The answer lies in its unique topography, hosting over 130 islands that blend natural beauty with human infrastructure, including international airports and fortified sites like Santa Cruz and São João. Despite mounting pressure from industrial pollution, Guanabara still preserves sensitive mangrove forests, acting as a natural filtration system for one of South America's busiest metropolitan areas. Giant's Causeway lies along the northern coast of Northern Ireland and is known for roughly 40,000 hexagonal basalt columns tightly interlocked into a single structure. Seen from above, the landscape resembles a massive stone chessboard or a giant honeycomb, creating a sense of order that feels almost intentional. The repetition of hexagonal, pentagonal, and octagonal shapes produces a powerful visual effect that has long encouraged associations with myths about giants who built the pathway. In geological terms, the columns formed as magma cooled extremely evenly at depths of around 300 feet, where the cooling rate had to reach perfect balance to generate stable fracture patterns. Unlike irregular volcanic cliffs, this formation creates a vast natural stairway, descending directly into the sea and disappearing beneath the waters of the Atlantic Ocean. The legend of the giant Finn McCool building a stone road to Scotland gained credibility for ancient observers because similar basalt columns also appear on the Scottish coast at Fingal's Cave. White Sands National Park is a natural megastructure in New Mexico built not from stone or brick, but from billions of tons of gypsum crystals, forming the largest gypsum dune field on Earth at about 274 square miles. Under normal conditions, gypsum dissolves easily in water and rarely becomes sand, but a closed basin here trapped mineral-rich runoff from surrounding mountains, allowing evaporation to leave behind crystallized white dunes. The chemical structure of gypsum reflects most solar radiation, creating a thermal paradox where the sand surface remains relatively cool despite intense desert sunlight. White sands is a dynamic system in which wind continually reshapes dunes, reaching up to about 59 feet in height and moves them roughly 30 feet each year, capable of engulfing objects in their path. When visiting the dunes, you can observe people sliding down the slopes on plastic boards, a common activity made possible by the fine, cool gypsum surface that behaves more like snow than typical desert sand. To survive in this environment, several animal species evolved reduced pigmentation, including the earless lizard found only here, whose white or pale gray coloration provides effective camouflage. Marble caves appear as a floating marble labyrinth within a freshwater lake in southern Chile, forming a structure that defies conventional architectural logic. This single marble mass is estimated to weigh about 5 billion tons and was hollowed out over roughly 6,000 years solely by continuous wave action and mineral-rich water. Instead of collapsing the rock, erosion selectively removed softer layers, leaving behind a stable internal system of arches, pillars, and corridors carved inside a solid block. In spring, lower water levels reveal bright white marble tones, while summer brings deep cobalt blue hues as melting Andes glaciers raise water levels and alter clarity. The cave entrances are low and narrow, accessible only by small boats or kayaks, and deeper inside, the dominant sound is gentle water movement, which has led to the site being described as a blue cathedral. Blyde River Canyon is a gorge nearly 3,300 feet deep that defies typical arid canyon imagery, as it is entirely covered by dense subtropical vegetation in South Africa's Mpumalanga province. The name Blyde, meaning joyful in Dutch, dates back to 1844, when an expedition unexpectedly returned alive after being presumed lost, giving the landscape an unusual historical context. Over millions of years, water and wind carved the sandstone bedrock into canyon walls, reaching depths of about 2,460 feet, demonstrating how persistent erosion can reshape solid stone. Massive rounded rock formations rise from the canyon floor with near-symmetrical shapes, often compared to towers or traditional dwellings on a scale far beyond human construction. When viewed from elevated lookouts along the panorama route, you can observe a dramatic ecological layering, from tropical wetlands inhabited by hippos at the canyon base to cooler temperate zones higher above, all contained within a single geological system. Nile River stretches for more than 4,100 miles from the heart of Africa to the Mediterranean Sea, holding the title of the longest river on Earth and serving as a lifeline across an arid continent. While most rivers flowing through the Sahara Desert evaporate before reaching the coast, the Nile maintains an immense discharge supplied by distant highlands strong enough to overcome the hottest and driest regions on the planet. For millions of years, its seasonal flooding cycles have functioned as a natural system of filling and draining with remarkable stability, creating a continuous corridor of life beyond the capability of any artificial structure. From space, you can observe a narrow but elongated green ribbon sharply dividing golden desert terrain, forming a geometric boundary between fertile land and arid sand. The river is not uniformly calm, as several sections are interrupted by rapids and cataracts that break the smooth flow of its course. The most fertile lands of northeastern Africa are built from Nile sediments, where wild papyrus once provided material for the first paper in human history, and where Nile crocodiles still inhabit the river, reaching lengths of up to about 20 feet. Elephant Rock rises from the North Atlantic at the Westman Islands of Iceland and is widely recognized for its elephant-like shape extending toward the sea. Long-term erosion gradually exposed distinct morphological features resembling a trunk, ears, and surface folds, making the rock easily identifiable from offshore. On the inaccessible upper surface, native Icelandic mosses and grasses form a dense cover that retains moisture, filters rainwater, and slows thermal cracking of the rock. Viewed from a boat at sea, the structure reveals its full outline as the angle changes, producing a strong visual impact and explaining why it is one of the most photographed landmarks in the Westman Islands. The Gondwana Rainforest is a massive ecological system stretching nearly 500 miles along Australia's eastern coast and formed by 50 interconnected reserves functioning as a unified natural complex. Regarded as a living time capsule, the forest preserves biological traits from 200 million years ago, when the southern continents were still joined as the ancient supercontinent Gondwana. While most of the Australian continent has turned arid and sun-scorched over millions of years, this rainforest remains a biological anomaly that continues to thrive against all climatic odds. Natural monuments within the region include Wollomombi Falls, which plunges over 660 feet, and Mignon Falls that crashes from the rim of an extinct volcano. The forest's living architecture features bizarre species like ancient Antarctic beeches and strangler figs, known for coiling around and entirely replacing their host trees. As the largest subtropical rainforest on Earth, Gondwana stands not only as a geological marvel, but as enduring proof of Earth's survival power across extinction cycles and climate shifts. In the middle of California's barren desert, Mono Lake emerges as a logic-defying entity with a glassy surface and chemical concentration strong enough to corrode metal within minutes. Formed not by stone, but through slow underwater reactions, this lake builds towering tufa spires as calcium-rich springs mix with its alkaline waters, creating limestone monuments that resemble coral from an alien world. What allows an ecosystem with alkalinity similar to cleaning agents to sustain billions of organisms and support the survival of millions of migratory birds each year? In conditions too hostile for typical life, Mono Lake functions as a massive biological engine entirely governed by extremophile microbes. Over 760,000 years, the lake has preserved Earth's geological history in its sediment layers and limestone towers that have endured every tectonic upheaval. A legend persists that its hot springs carry traces of gold, but the lake's corrosive toxicity has made all mining attempts impossible for any diver in history. The Amazon is not merely a forest, but a planetary-scale biological engine so vast it could swallow the entire European continent within its borders. What allows such an enormous ecosystem to thrive on the poorest soils on Earth? It is powered by a miraculous feedback loop, where phosphorus-rich dust from the Sahara Desert travels halfway around the globe to fertilize the forest floor. Each day, billions of trees in the Amazon pump roughly 20 billion tons of water vapor into the air, forming massive flying rivers that outperform any human-made irrigation system. Beneath the canopy, where sunlight can take up to 10 minutes to reach the ground, lies a hidden city of roots and fungi, interwoven into a biological neural network that enables communication and mutual defense among trees. This entire system not only produces a significant share of the planet's oxygen, but also represents the last biological threshold between climate equilibrium and global collapse. Blue Spring functions as a massive natural water plant with a discharge rate of 42 cubic meters per minute, supplying between 60 and 70% of New Zealand's bottled water. The entire system is a complex hydrological network featuring the crystal-clear Waihu River, vast wetlands, shallow rapids, and cascading streams arranged in a landscape that appears meticulously engineered by nature itself. With a constant temperature of 52 degrees Fahrenheit, year-round, and surreal clarity, the spring bed displays vivid bands of blue and green, as if painted across the current. Since 2016, swimming has been strictly prohibited to protect the pristine condition of the spring from the mounting pressure of mass tourism. Closely integrated with the Waihu River ecosystem, the Blue Spring system stands as a natural wonder, requiring strict conservation against human interference.